That's Tyler Chapin, I think.
Is he gonna do his little special? Jump into
Were you guys there when Christian, was just Christian on his own, and he said the Schaefer special like 30 times?
Yeah.
And then I had to text him over Discord, like, please say something else. Please, Schaefer special.
Please, shut up.
No,
I know you're
like,
commentator.
Wait, hold on.
Up.
that was Dawson.
Well, hold on.
Christian, Christian on his own.
And now for your starting lineups. Starting tonight for the Eagles, at outside hitter, a sophomore, number 1, Kylie Robinson. At center, junior, number 5, Ashley Rutherford. At outside hitter, sophomore, number 9, Faith Depew. At middle hitter, sophomore, number 14, Gabby Atwell. At middle hitter, junior, number 16.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's presentation of Southern Virginia Athletics here on Knights Broadcasting. Tonight's women's volleyball contest is between the Eagles of Bridgewater College and your Knights of Southern Virginia. I'm Dawson Weidrich, joined today by my good friend Quinn Meyer for today's non-conference volleyball matchup, the second day in the row where the Knights are in action.
Yep, it's going to be a good evening for volleyball. Two super competitive teams as we get the starting lineups of the Knights. But this will be a good game for the Knights to get back on track and take a little bit of a breath in between conference games before taking on another conference opponent this weekend.
Absolutely. Last night, as I mentioned, the Knights had lost their conference match to Greensboro College 3-0 here at home, their first home loss of the season. And like I said, Quinn, looking to bounce back. Now let's look off the starters here for Southern Virginia. Of course, you got Jelaine Peterson, the lone senior on the roster. You got Brenna Clyde, Sydney Bassett, Jessica Ensley, Sarah Hoofman, Caitlin Wanker, and Brooklyn Madland. And then, of course, for Bridgewater College, you got Kylie Robinson as the outside hitter, Faith Shields as a setter, Ashley Rutherford as a setter as well. She and Faith Shields, we'll talk about their statistics in a little bit. They both do a fantastic job. Then you got number 7, Sophia Stites. And they have number 9, Faith Depew, outside hitter. They also have 14, Gabby Atwell, middle hitter. Number 16, Rachel Myers, middle hitter. And 18, Reagan Stoop, outside hitter. Reagan Stoop is one, when you and I were talking about before the game, is going to be an absolute problem for not just Southern Virginia, but any team altogether. She is stacked statistically.
Yeah, just as a freshman, obviously, you can see she's super talented, leads the team in kills, but also is really great defensively as well. And as you described it beforehand, a bit of a Swiss Army knife in their roster.
Oh, absolutely. She has 173 digs, 15 blocks to go along with her team leading 202 kills on the season. I'm sure during preparations for this game, that was one player that Coach W. Baker of Southern Virginia was like, okay, hey, we have got to key in on her, make sure we know where she is at all times. And of course, she'll the middle blockers keep an eye on that, the outside hitters, and someone like Brenna Clyde, for instance, her and Jelaine Peterson really combined for a majority of the blocks for the Southern Virginia roster. It'll be interesting to see how they adjust their defensive scheme accordingly. And coming into today's game, Bridgewater College is coming in with a 10-5 overall record so far this year. They are on a 1-game winning streak, looking to continue that winning streak. Southern Virginia coming into this game on a 2-game losing streak. I mentioned their loss last night against Greensboro College, where they just seem to struggle a little bit. And I'll get into what Coach Baker said about that in a little bit. We'll get things started here in Knight Arena. It's always a great atmosphere, like you said, Quinn, for some good volleyball. And back to serve first. For Southern Virginia will be number 25, Brooklyn Madland, freshman from Mission Viejo, California. Right in the middle, and it's going to drop behind Jelaine Peterson thanks to the help of the net. That's always tough when there's someone like Jelaine Peterson. You're there on time, you jump up on time, but the net makes it to where as you're coming down, the ball's going over top of you, and that's really hard to adjust to.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, obviously the Knights, they can't worry too much about that. It's something that's out of their control, and they just want to work on being consistent, as we talked about before the game.
And that difficult first pass allowed you to set up perfectly for number 9, Faith Depew of Bridgewater College. Now back to serve for the Eagles is number 12, Madeline Walker. Here's Peterson, able to get that one to fall thanks to the miscommunication in the back row by the Eagles.
I'm excited to see how the Knights are able to bounce back, as it seems like our women's and men's team historically have a knack for playing their best with adversity after losing 2 consecutive conference games.
Absolutely, and there's a solid hit in the back left corner where no one was at. A little bit unconventional as far as being the second hit in that attack, but it works out for the Eagles that time. Now number 7, Sophia Stites, back to serve. Sophia coming to this game is leading the team in digs at 236 on the year. Movement to Bassett. Phenomenal work by the Eagles to recover that one. Diving effort there. A lot of hustle from the Eagles defensively. And that time, that was number 18, Reagan Stoop, as we talked about earlier. Again, that one to fall right in front of Bassett.
Yeah, I mean, the Knights did a lot of things right there, as they had good opportunities to score, but that's just a phenomenal player making a great play.
Once again, Sophia Stites back to serve. And that's set up for Wankier. Incredible diving effort by Walker. There's Bassett again. And that falls right between teammates Walker and Stites.
And that's a good job there in the back line by Jessica Inslee. We talked a little bit before the game how last game against Greensboro, they really struggled with their consistency of the back line. But a good play by Jessica to help them get that point.
And that's Hoofman on the serve. Stites diving to keep that one up. And that's going to fall from the 14, Gabby Atwell. You mentioned the Knights back row as the Eagles now take a 5-2 lead here in the first set. That was absolutely something that plagued the Knights, especially in the second and third set, where it seemed like they just kind of were psyching themselves out a little bit. And that goes to some of what I talked to Coach Baker about after this serve from Faith Shields. Looking into Bassett come from the back row. I believe it was tipped. I'm actually going to say that it was in for the score, make it a 2-point game now. But I talked to Coach Baker beforehand, and I asked her what her message to her team was last night after losing to Greensboro College. And the main thing that she said to me was, I mean, it was spot on, as she knows her team better than we do. And that falls for Southern Virginia. But the main thing she said was, we're putting so much pressure on ourselves that we forget to just have fun and play volleyball. You know, because this team, like you said, historically speaking, this Southern Virginia volleyball team has been fantastic over the past couple of years, being back-to-back USA South Conference champions, just having a history of excellence. And there's that pressure that you can naturally put on yourselves. That falls for Stoop. There's that pressure you can put on yourself that can kind of psych you out a little bit, and you're more focused on not losing than winning.
Yeah, and when you put that pressure on yourself, the simple and little things in the game become a bit more difficult. And last game we talked about how they had a lot of difficulty communicating, you know, balls that were up for grabs that they should have gotten, but they didn't. And so if they're able to just go out there and have fun and forget about it, they'll do just fine.
Absolutely. Now the Knights are within one after that serve from Stoop was short. Now subbing into serve is number 9, Taryn Anderson, the freshman from Nephi, Utah. Peterson right there to knock it back down. I always say those plays, you might as well sing happy birthday and give them a cake right there at the net.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Your eyes kind of get a little wide with excitement when the ball's coming right at you and there's nobody in front of you to knock it down. And that's tapped back by Clyde. And they'll call a double that time on Bridgewater College, and the Knights take the lead 7-6 here in the first set.
Yeah, I think it's always nice to have, you know, a senior middle blocker in there, you know, have the opportunity to make these big blocks, these big plays, and be a bit of emotional leader for the team, as I'm certain they look up to Jelaine in many ways, having such a young team.
They absolutely do. Jelaine has always been a very vocal presence on the court. In all the 5 years now she's been on a Southern Virginia roster, thanks to the additional years she was granted by the NCAA. As now back to serve for Bridgewater College is Gabby Atwell, the sophomore from Harrisonburg, Virginia. There's Madeline having to hit while standing. Great up there from Bassett to keep it up. Here's Ensley off the speaker on the ceiling. And due to some interference from the ceiling, made it a sort of troublesome attack for Southern Virginia. Ends up being a point for the Eagles.
Yeah, again, that's just, getting a taste of your own medicine in the barn. Something that you can't really control, but to this point, they played really well to come back strong.
I think Ensley slipped a little bit on that one, as that goes down as a service ace for the Eagles. And they make it a 9-7 lead. And you mentioned the senior leadership, especially on a roster. As Madeline dives to get that one, Peterson chasing it. It'll fall, another point to the Eagles. And on a roster that is filled with 13 freshmen, the most that, I mentioned this last night, the most that Coach Debbie Baker has ever had on a roster at Southern Virginia.
Yeah, and she mentioned that there's certainly going to be some growing pains, and being back-to-back USA South champions, they might tend to put some pressure on themselves, wanting to take the torch and carry on and three-peat. But again, they're just going to have to settle down and have fun and enjoy what they love doing.
Absolutely. And the Eagles were in the net that time, so a point to Southern Virginia. We have Nikki Stevenson back to serve. Stevenson is a sophomore from Elliott Lake, Ontario, Canada. Now Stevenson diving for that one, just a little bit too far out of reach. We have some substitutions for the Eagles, including number 9, Faith Kakuya, coming back in, as well as number 5, Ashley Rutherford, who is now back to serve. That was really close to the line, so Bassett just electing to grab it. Peterson having to dig that one out of the net, but it'll fall for the Eagles. And I think the main takeaway that Coach Baker kind of left me with after talking with her was she just hopes her players go out and have fun tonight. Because she mentioned if you're not having fun out there, then what are you doing? It's a sport, it's a game, right? It's called a game for a reason. So if you're stressing yourself out to the point where it's no longer fun, then you're gonna make those silly mistakes like you mentioned. And so you gotta just kind of let your body take over. You train all day, every day for this. Your body knows what to do. And when you allow that to happen, then things go a little bit smoother for you. There's Hoofman. Peterson, the low set, having to adjust her arm on that hit. I believe that may have been off of Peterson's hand as it goes out. Make it a 13-9 lead for the Eagles. Subbing in now for Bridgewater College is number 12, Madeline Walker, junior from York, Pennsylvania.
And while they all are trailing a few points right now, I've liked what I've seen so far. They've done a better job of communicating, like right there.
Fantastic job there, though, from Myers.
And part of the deficit, I think, is just stellar play by Bridgewater. But they have improved on some things as they take a timeout right now. And so we'll see how they come back out of the timeout. That's
very true. There's definitely a more loose feeling out there for Southern Virginia tonight. Last night, it seemed like as the sets went on, the nights got just a little bit more rigid and not necessarily stiff, because you can't be stiff on a volleyball court, but just the emotion felt stiff. It was like Coach Baker was saying, they're putting so much pressure on themselves, they're overthinking every little thing. But again, it seems like they're more loose tonight. They're coming to this more just going out there to play, have fun, and be excited about it. And like you said, they're down by 5 right now, but a lot of that is just due to the fact that, like you said, Bridgewater College is just doing a fantastic job with getting their blockers in front of the hitters, make sure to keep their hands pointed inside, and also their back row. I mean, again, we have the libero, Sophia Stites, diving all over the place, and that's what we love to see from a libero, is sacrificing your body, being everywhere you need to be, and keeping plays alive.
Yeah, and I actually like how this matchup has been thrown into their schedule. As we mentioned before, it gives them a couple of days to breathe before resuming conference play again. But they can have that loose feeling and have more fun while still playing a very competitive team. We talked before how the all-time series is tied at 4 games apiece. And as good as the Knights have been in the past few years under the leadership of Coach Debbie Baker, it shows you how good the Eagles are as well.
Oh, absolutely. They always come in very well coached very well developed as a team. You mentioned coaches. I'll mention head coach of Bridgewater College, Aaron Harris, in a second. That hit sails off from Peterson, going out of bounds, making it 15-9. Coach Aaron Harris of Bridgewater College, just a week and a half ago, passed 200 career wins as a coach, only missing the conference tournament twice in her entire coaching career for the Eagles, which, for those who maybe aren't aware or don't know, that's incredibly difficult to do, to maintain that type of consistency in conference competition.
Especially against tough competition in the ODAC.
Absolutely. And now fall for Stoop once again. Stoop now leads both teams in kills so far tonight with 3. She's followed closely by Kylie Robinson, and then on Southern Virginia's side, you have Delane Peterson with 2 and Sydney Bassett with 2. That serve just short from Walker. So now the Knights down by 6 with Jessica Ensley back to serve.
And in games like this where they're trying to bounce back after a couple of tough losses, you know, you're going to need bounces to go your way.
Yes.
And
that one sure did.
Yeah, and those are a couple of bounces right there that they need to get confident again, be a little bit more loose on the court, and hopefully that spurs them on to a victory tonight.
And that was the first service ace for a member of the Knights roster so far tonight. That one just a little bit short for Ensley. And, you know, we've talked about back row. I want to once again talk about Jessica Ensley. Jessica Ensley last year spent a lot of time as a setter and was very productive in that position. But they also had the past couple of years Emma Steiger as a libero, who's one of those players that you just love to watch, because she was a wall back there. That hit from Bassett sailing on her, another point for the Eagles. But Emma Steiger was, past 2 years, just a wall in the back row. Nothing got past her, and so replacing someone like that, it's also an immense amount of pressure. But so far this year, I feel like Jessica Ensley has really stood up to the challenge.
Yeah, and she's an experienced player so it's always nice to have, you know, a veteran player kind of step into that role. As a really nice looking kill by Sydney Bassett.
I wish you folks at home could have seen my face reaction to that, because that was beautiful.
Yeah, I know, a lot of respect for what Jessica Ensley's done. She's been asked to step into a really valuable role in the team. Big shoes to fill, but she's done a really good job with it.
And a service ace that time for Sarah Hoofman. So back-to-back fantastic plays for Southern Virginia. First the kill from Bassett, now the service ace from Hoofman. Ample opportunity here for Southern Virginia if they can set up a solid attack. Here's Clyde. She's been silent so far tonight, but gets that one to fall. And when we talked before this broadcast started about Brenna Clyde, I feel like last year in the second half of the year really came into her own and gained a lot of confidence, and was one of the leaders in kills for the team down the stretch. And she has similar amounts of targets as, you know, Sydney Bassett has, but I feel like it's been a little less consistent for her. And so we talked about her getting really good quality looks, because when you give her a solid setup and give her a chance to really get a good approach, she's almost unstoppable.
Yeah, she's very athletic, has tons of reach, so that's definitely an advantage that she has over lots of the blockers out there. But yeah, we were saying before, it seems like every time she goes up to strike it, you know, it turns into a point for the Knights, and she does have a pretty good hitting percentage, and so we're excited to see what she can do tonight.
And Bassett, who's now back to serve, got the kill there, able to find the opening in the defense. The Knights now down by 4 here. Bridgewater somehow able to keep that alive. Here's Madeline. And that was Stoop. A clear net violation there.
And speaking of youth, that's 3 freshmen that combined for that point for the Knights. You know, there's been about 3, 4, or 5 freshmen on this roster that have, you know, been a consistent presence in the rotation. Caitlin Winkler, Brooklyn Madeline, and Sarah Hoofman, they've done a really good job filling holes for the Knights this year.
That's another thing that Coach Bigger talked to me about yesterday, where she'll have 3 or 4 freshmen on the floor at a time, and that every time she mentions that, she just has this sort of surprised look on her face, like we usually don't have that. But like you said, they've really stood up and made a lot of impact on this roster so far. Here's the attack from Bridgewater. That one just getting past Bassett. And a substitution here for the Eagles and number 1, Kylie Robinson, the sophomore from Louisa, Virginia. We have Reagan Stoop back to serve. And beautiful setup there for Gabby Atwell. Now makes it 21-16 in favor of the Eagles. Coach W. Baker will call a timeout and try to make some adjustments here. As again, you said it before, Quinn, that Southern Virginia so far has played solidly. It's just a couple of simple plays have not gone their way, and Bridgewater College has taken advantage. Like, perfect example just then, the first pass goes a little bit too far, put right back down by Bridgewater College. I believe that was number 14, Gabby Atwell, who was responsible for that time. So Bridgewater College with the 5-point lead. It's kind of in the consistent margin between these two teams so far in this first set.
Yeah, there's been quite a bit of back and forth. After the Knights went down, I think 3 or 4 points early, they eventually came back and took the lead. But then Bridgewater, they dished it right back. And so, but that just shows that, it's a 5-point lead for the Eagles. But there's still quite a bit of volleyball left in this first set.
Right.
And the Knights are more than capable with the tools they have to come back and take the first one.
One statistic that's popping out at me right now as I'm looking at the stat sheet here is that Bridgewater's top 4 hitters, you have 2 that are over 600. Kylie Robinson was 667, Faith McHugh was 667 as well. And Brooklyn Williams with 500, Reagan Stoop with 500. And they look at Southern Virginia, their top 2 hitters right now in this game, Brenna Clyde and Sarah Hoofman, they're over 500. Then you have Jelaine Peterson, 250, and Sydney Bassett, 200. So I think that speaks volumes right now for what is happening, is that the Eagles are able to more capitalize on their hitting opportunities in Southern Virginia so far tonight. Here's Clyde, diving effort there from Stites. Clyde able to get her hand on that one. Back set. Madeline nearly winning that encounter with Brooklyn Williams at the net. But another point for the Eagles.
Yeah, and as the Eagles get a point there, as much as we talk about, the accuracy in hitting the ball from Brenna Clyde, she's also been a bit of a wall, combining for a couple of key blocks down the stretch.
And that goes down to the kill for Clyde. Again, it feels like when she gets a solid setup, might as well just count it as another number on the scoreboard for Southern Virginia. Now once again, we'll have Taryn Anderson subbing in to serve for the Knights. Score now stands 22-17 here in the first set. Barely just gets past the blockers of Southern Virginia. I think one thing I'm seeing too with the blockers of Southern Virginia tonight is that they're not getting as close to the net as maybe they need to. And so they're not able to really make that wall. So if they get their hands on it, it kind of goes past them onto their side rather than being pushed back.
Yeah, it leads to perfectly placed balls, and most of these points have not been Knight mistakes. They've been Bridgewater placing it perfectly in between all the Knights players.
Hoofman nearly able to get it in bounds off the one-arm swing as it was very far in the back court. But now set point for the Eagles. This is Atwell back to serve. This first pass being troublesome. Again, that's happened a couple of times so far. And that allowed the first set of today's matchup to go to the Eagles of Bridgewater College. Score 25-17. And again, even though the Knights gave up that first set, there was a lot of promising things that you saw there that I'm sure they'll go into the meeting between sets and say, hey, look, here's some things we're doing well. Here's some things that we can control and do a little bit better in the second set. And again, as we mentioned before, there's just a couple plays where not much you can do about that. You got to have short-term memory loss, move on, get to the next play.
Yeah, I think things that improved from last game were their communication.
Yes.
That was one of the bigger ones. But then one thing that they could work on is their, like that last point, receiving the serves just a little bit off and allows the middle blockers to tower over the net and put it back down in a perfectly placed spot. But obviously, as much youth as there is in the team, there is experience as well. Right. And obviously, Debbie Baker's had a lot of success. She'll make some adjustments needed and hopefully they can get a set back.
Absolutely, and just looking at the stats right now for Bridgewater College, they're doing a really great job at diversifying where they're attacking from. You know, you have 4 different players that have 2 kills apiece. You have Reagan Stoop, Kylie Robinson, Faith Depew, and Gabby Atwell. And then one thing that we failed to mention so far, we kind of hinted at, was the assist leaders. For Southern Virginia, you have Sarah Hoofman doing all the legwork with 7 assists so far. But on Bridgewater's side, you have Ashley Rutherford with 4, Faith Shields with 4, and Faith Depew with 1. So again, they're able to really attack you from any which way, which makes defense that much more difficult to do. Again, because coming into this game, you had Ashley Rutherford with 240 assists and Faith Shields with 283 assists. Having 2 players over 230 plus assists this early in the season, that just shows, hey, you got some people who can pass.
Oh yeah, and with, you know, the difficult schedule that Bridgewater typically has, that just shows that, you know, they're not just, you know, giving a certain player an off night. They're splitting duties for real.
Right.
Which means they have real depth at that position. And it seems like we typically talk about these Southern Virginia teams having more depth than most teams they play against. So it's an interesting matchup to get another team that's able to rotate through a couple of setters and middle blockers as well.
Absolutely. And with that, we want to real quickly thank Knights Athletic Department's sponsors and partners, some local businesses that we have in the area. We got Cornerstone Bank, got Mill Creek Orthodontics, River Crossing Apartments, Straws Drinks and Eats, one of my personal favorite places in Buena Vista, Virginia. Grace Automotive, Papa John's Pizza, Vinyl Cuts, The Beef Sweet Souvenirs, and Katana Sushi and Hibachi Express. Thank you so much for partnering with Southern Virginia Athletics. And if you would like to partner with Knights Athletics to promote your business to the Knight Nation, please contact Brett Schroeder at 801-633-1894. That's 801-633-1894. I just mentioned Straws Drinks and Eats, and then now all of a sudden I'm just very thirsty for a soda.
Oh yeah.
Good old Dr. Pepper with some flavors in there. That's the danger of those ad reads.
Yeah.
Is that now all of a sudden I'm hungry even though I just ate.
Yeah, a lot of good players. And they also have acai now as well.
Yes.
Very tasty. And then while you mentioned straws, I remember they have an event tomorrow, this Friday, but also they have an open mic night next Friday on the 6th.
Indeed.
So stop by and have some treats. And
the first one's actually on
talents.
Saturday. It's a music performance fundraiser by New
Saturday
Force
the 30th,
Theater
correct.
Academy. Yes, Saturday, September 30th, and like you said, October 6th, open mic night. So, Quinn, I'm looking forward to seeing what you do in open mic night.
Someone asked me that last night, and I'll give you the same answer, no.
Affirmative, no. Just, I love it. At least you're upfront and honest, and able to shut that down. And Bassett, speaking of which, shut down any efforts of defending that hit.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing you notice when Sydney's warming up, lots of athleticism, able to get over top of the ball really easily, so that brings a lot of power into her strikes.
Now back to serve is Jessica Ensley as the Knights take an early 1-0 lead in this second set. A little hesitation on her approach that time was Robinson. And that one gets right by Stevenson. Stevenson starting off this set on the floor.
And we mentioned earlier, Dawson, how Jessica Ensley's had to fill some big shoes. So has Sydney Bassett.
Yes.
She's had to take over from some really big hitters like, for example, Courtney Pinkston left due to graduation. And Sydney's really filled that heavy load nicely.
She absolutely has. I mean, you mentioned the rich history. I mean, ever since I've been here at Southern Virginia, it feels like every year there's that one outside hitter who you've watched in warm-ups, and they're the one that stands out with their ability to really elevate and get on top of the ball, like you just said. And Sydney Bassett filling that role this year. Knights able to keep that alive. Here's Bridgewater. There's Madeline. Almost had 2 players for Southern Virginia go up for that attack, and a fantastic quick set to the middle blocker. For the kill that time was number 16, Rachel Myers, the junior from Fayetteville, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's a bit of a tough break because it looked like it might have been going out of bounds when Jessica lobbed that back over to the other side, but they get a point right back there.
There's been a couple of those tonight, and that's always a tough call, especially on the outside. Because you don't want to just give one up and then ends up landing right on the line and ends up being close enough to where you should have acted on it.
And that's another reason why, you know, volleyball much more difficult, especially at an elite level, than most people think. Whereas it happens so fast that you have to make these split-second decisions like that.
And Reagan Stute comes down with another kill that time, getting past Southern Virginia's Wankier and Brenna Clyde. Now back to serve is number 7, Sophia Stites. Here's Bassett, and able to get a solid setup there. Thunderous hit that time.
And she even, she got up a little bit further back than she might have wanted, but still was able to get it through the two blockers and get it to the floor.
You're absolutely right. She had to stop her approach a little bit early and still to get on top of it. That's always impressive to me. Ensley keeping that up.
Nice dig.
Able to get between the block that time. It was number 9, Faith Depew. I feel like there's a pun for that last name somewhere, and I'm trying to find it. Because, playing volleyball with last name Depew, that has to have come up at some point. Don't worry, folks, I'll try to find it. But now back to serve as number 3, Faith Shields. That one lands for Madeline. She's been a little quiet so far tonight. She's very active early in the contest against Greensboro College last night. Not as many targets so far today.
Yeah, and she's also she's a freshman obviously, but a bit of a secret weapon. Comes into the day, I think 90 kills on the season. So she's been utilized quite a bit early on.
Here's Stute. Put back down by Peterson and Clyde. I tell you what, if there's a wall that I wouldn't want to go up against in the game of volleyball, it'd be Peterson and Clyde.
Yeah, if you're looking to get things going, look for Brennan and Jelaine to get a big stuff at the net.
That serve just a little bit short for Anderson. And being the 2 most experienced by far middle blockers on the team, they've played together for a couple of years. They know how to communicate. They know where to be. They're able to feel out each other's tendencies and all that stuff. So that's always awesome to see them working together like that. Here's Stute for the serve. Here's Clyde. Rising up, and again, Clyde touches it. Ends up being a point. Come back in to serve is Stevenson. Clyde now with 3 kills to her name. She is second on the team behind Sydney Bassett, who has 6. That one falls for Williams. It seems it's on that far side where they're having a hard time closing that gap. And that's where Bridgewater College has been attacking most of this second set.
Yeah, it seems like, 90% of their sets are going to that side.
Peterson with the pin. Great job by Stute. A little trickery from Hoofman. Good tip from Peterson. Here's Madeline. Hoofman keeping that alive, and Hoofman trying to put it down.
Nice rally going.
Thanks to some help from the net. That one falls for Robinson. You're absolutely right. It was a good back and forth. Both teams were in position.
Yeah, those are tough ones to let up, because obviously you played a really nice rally, and again, something that's a bit out of your control.
Diving for it is Hoofman. And Ensley trying to get to it. But good pancake nonetheless from Hoofman, diving for it, keeping it alive. The Knights now find themselves down by 3.
And this is a spot in the game where you got to stay composed. You were able to come back and tie it at 6, but allow 3 more consecutive points to the Eagles. But in the second set, this is crucial now.
Madeline gets that to drop. And like you said, the Knights have had a couple moments of momentum, and I think we talked about this before the broadcast as well, is that last night against Greensboro College, the Knights would go on brief little runs, but one thing they really struggled with is maintaining possession of that momentum. It's like they would have a couple plays, then they'd kind of relax a little bit, and then all of a sudden you see a run from Greensboro College, hoping to not have that same thing happen. Stevenson gets it right back to Bridgewater. That one's going to sail out off the hand of Rachel Myers. And with the whole thing with momentum, that's one of those things that it's hard to learn how to do that. It's hard to learn how to maintain momentum, keep it going. A lot of that just comes down to experience, and comes down to, again, like you said, kind of keeping your wits about you and playing every play like it's the same. Here's Peterson for the pin. Fast trying to throw it down, and great hustle that time from Bridgewater College's defense. Peterson keeps it up. Bassett has to send it back over. Great positioning for Stites. Stevenson, the one-handed. Falls into the net for Bassett. What an effort from Stevenson. The one-handed dig to keep it alive while diving.
Yeah, that might have just been, fatigue for Sydney, a really long rally. And,
yes.
And she was the first one to say, my bad.
Back to serve for the Eagles now is Ashley Rutherford. Rutherford, the junior from Blacksburg, Virginia.
Well, those are the points they have to dig deep and find a way to win if they're going to retake the lead.
That one sails out on Robinson. We just saw a great example of that Swiss Army knife playing capability from Reagan Stoop. Again, I mentioned that she's leading her team in kills right now with 5, but in the back row, she's letting nothing past her in that middle back. Not moving a muscle off that hit. And ties it up at 10 apiece.
As you brought up Reagan Stoop again, again, it just shows how much depth they have. It seems like we haven't said her name too often, even though she's a central part of their attack and defense.
She's one of those where you look down the stat sheet and all of a sudden you say, oh wow, she's got these stats, she's got these amount of kills, and then you start to pay attention, and then you start to notice, like, being quietly good. That served that time from Walker. Here's Bassett. Gets that past the block of Faith Depew. Ties it back up at 11. I want to see Brenna Clyde come back in with Hoofman back to serve. And you immediately see Brenna Clyde coming in there with a lot of communication, a lot of energy, and put right down by Bassett.
It seems like it's always a comfort to see both Brenna Clyde and Sydney Bassett in there. Threats on both sides of the court. And obviously both have lots of athleticism, as Sydney showed there.
And the Knights take the lead for the first time since they were leading 1-0. And a missed swing. I think they're saying that the Knights had touched it at the net. Clyde shuts down any other conversation outside of that one. Was definitely tipped. But that was very interesting, because if it was a touch by Southern Virginia, it was a very subtle one.
And I think it was a touch by Brenna Clyde, just barely off the fingertips, which is why, you can't really see it. But yeah, it certainly looked like, too many hits if you're sitting at any other place in the arena.
Like, we're not the up and down, we're not right on the net, like you said. But Bridgewater College gets the point, brings it back within 1. And here's Stites to serve. Hoofman just sends it over. I'm going to say that she was over the net. Ties it back up at 13. And this is gut check time right now for Southern Virginia. You brought it back, took the lead, and they've given up a couple points. Do you let Bridgewater College go on a run here, or do you immediately take it back? I think Ensley took a little too long to get out of the way. She eventually made the right call that it was going to go out of bounds.
Just another one of those split-second decisions that's really difficult to make.
And with that, the Eagles take back the lead, 14-13. Hoofman having to get on the ground for this set. Here's Stoop. falls in the back line just past Ensley. Now it's a 2-point lead for the Eagles. I feel like Ensley was kind of put on an island there where she was kind of left all on her own in that backside. And that's difficult for anybody in that position.
Especially versus someone who has way over 200 kills on the year.
Bassett just trying to get it back over. That hit just a little short from DePue. Brings it back within 1. And here's Bassett back to serve.
Yeah, and you kind of got to get out of that zone if you're Southern Virginia, where, you know, when Bridgewater goes on these runs, it seems like everywhere you hit it, there's someone there on the defensive side, and you sort of hit a wall in your mind. But they got to find a way to get past that now to take the lead.
There's Stoop able to get past Wankier's hands. Makes it back to a 2-point lead. Some substitutions for the Eagles, including number 3 Faith Shields and number 15 Brooklyn Williams. Shields back to serve. Having Shields in that back row is a good rotation too, just because she has 99 digs in the air, but just like that, Clyde able to knock it down, bring it back within 1. Substitutions for Southern Virginia now. We see the re-entry of Jelaine Peterson as well as Taryn Anderson. So now, like we had a couple rotations ago, you have Jelaine Peterson and Brenna Clyde both at the net. Madeline able to put that right back down. A little bit of sloppy passing from the Eagles.
And that's a good placement on the serve by Taryn Anderson. Gave the Eagles some difficulty. Obviously, Taryn, we talked about coming in as a bit of a service specialist. He's got, I think, 18 service aces on the year.
Yeah, I believe you're right. That time the serve just a little short. We've seen that a couple times from her where she has 1 or 2 solid serves and then into the net. A little bit of frustration there for her as we have Stoop back to serve as the Eagles have a 1-point lead once again.
So, yeah, that just goes back to more consistency.
Here's Clyde. Back up there from Williams. Stoop from the back row. A surprise hit that time. I believe it was number 14, Gabby Atwell. Rising up, looked like it was just gonna go right on over, and Atwell's right there to slam it down. Peterson was anticipating the ball just coming to her. And then Bassett in the last second having to try to get a dig. Miscommunication for the Eagles. Brings it back within 1.
Yeah, Eagles coach Aaron Harris had a difficult time watching that one. Some miscommunication there by a couple of her ladies.
I mean, that's one thing that'll drive any coach crazy is when you preach communication every day of practice. I mean, every coach in any sport will say the words talk, or maybe the word talk, maybe 40, 50 times in practice. And then when your players don't do it in the game, you think to yourself, is all those times where I vocalize that wasted? You know?
Especially when it comes at a time when you seemingly have the momentum.
Right.
And, it just kind of gets wasted with unforced errors. But it happens to everyone. I'm just going to have to find a way to rebound.
And now tied at 18 in the second set. Max is having to send it over. Bassett. Hoofman trying to be tricky. Here's Madeline. Just out. Just barely, I think within maybe an inch or 2.
That was really good anticipation, though, by, I think it's Gabby Atwell, number 14 of the Eagles, when Hoofman tried to be a little bit sneaky and put it back over the net herself. So
they've been able to read that quite often today. I think it's been 4 or 5 times where Hoofman has tried something like that, and they have been in position every single time. That time it falling for the Knights. Ties it back up at 19 apiece. Stoop was put in an awkward situation where you kind of have to lean over, almost kind of Super Saiyan pose a little bit, try to keep it alive in the air. Ends up going into an awkward spot for the Eagles.
So about the 6th or 7th time, it's gut check time in this set.
That serve just short from Madeline. gives the Eagles back the lead. Some more substitutions for the Eagles. And Rutherford as well as Depew. Rutherford back to serve. And Rutherford, a junior from Blacksburg, Virginia. I'm not sure if we've said where she is from yet. There's Bassett. Sprinting up. There's Rutherford. That falls in front of Ensley and Stevenson. So now 2-point lead for the Eagles. And a timeout for Southern Virginia head coach Debbie Baker. I like the use of the timeout here.
Timeout.
Again, you don't want to get too far behind, especially in these last couple of points. Because again, like you said, Eagles started to develop a little bit of momentum, and the Knights are right there in this set. This is a set that if you want to have a chance at bouncing back, you feel like you kind of need this set. Obviously, it's not do or die right now, but there's just a sense that you got to get this one.
Exactly, because it's it's a huge swing to be tied at 1 versus being down 2-0.
Yes.
And it forces you to win 3 consecutive sets. So yeah, it's a good timeout, as you don't want to let them get to 22 and be 2 points away from set point. This, being down 21-19 seems a lot more manageable than just 22-19.
Yeah, absolutely. And a sort of unspoken rule in volleyball is oftentimes when a team gets to 22 or 23 points, the team that gets to that point first tends to be 99% of the time is the team that wins that set, right? So you want to stop them before they get to that point, because every volleyball player kind of in their mind thinks, oh, they got to 23 before we did. Even though you try to fight off a mentality that's sort of that thought of, oh, well, they got this set. You have to play things perfectly the rest of the way. Whereas now, like you said, there's little room for error, but you have to lock things down right now. Here's Rutherford back to serve once again. Eagles up by 2 in the second set. Stevenson from the back row. Madlin. Bassett having to launch it over with her left hand. The block for Peterson. Talk about a gut check. Your senior coming in and making the play. Because I feel like both sides in that rally really struggled to get a solid pass going. It was just, both teams playing well defensively, but passing was just a little sloppy. Here's Ensley to serve. Solid top spin there from Robinson. You're absolutely right, amazing dig. Great effort there from Ensley to keep it up. A 2-point lead now for Bridgewater.
Yeah, it's a good effort by her. Obviously didn't get the point, but she gave her team a chance there.
Back to serve is number 12, Madeline Walker. Again, some of that back row play, come back to haunt the Knights late in a set like this. Another timeout for Southern Virginia. Not liking what she's seeing out of that timeout. They had a couple of plays there. Then Bridgewater's able to extend the lead by 3 points that time, make it 23-20, 2 points away from second set victory and going up 2 sets to nothing.
Yeah, in volleyball late in these close sets, these swings are just so wild.
Yes.
You go from only being down 22-21, being right in it, to being down 3 and 1 point away from set point. Again, another good use of the timeout by Coach Baker.
I absolutely agree. And Southern Virginia has been in a hole before. They have come back to win. I mean, it was recently September 16th against Pfeiffer. They were down 2 sets to nothing, and they stormed back 3 sets in a row. Obviously, if you can make it 1-1, you prefer that to be the case. But I think either way, this is a team that has shown they can storm back. And so I think you have to start right now.
Yeah.
You can't wait to the next set to get things going. You have to start right now. Start making those plays, making those adjustments, and making sure that you just give yourself a chance to do it. Yeah, especially with that back row first pass.
And if you can come back in this set, that goes a long way, especially for the third set and in future matches. Because as we've seen in past years, the Knights can really put on a spirit like no other.
Here's Bassett. I think they're going to say that the hit went into the net. That'll be a 4th hit, so now set point for the Eagles. And that one hurts because it was a good setup. You had your leader in kills rising up for the hit. And a beautiful block there by number 16, Rachel Myers. So, talk about gut check. Bridgewater College really came out of that timeout and shut down any possibility at bringing it back even in that set. I mean, great work at the net. Again, I mentioned Rachel Myers, and also just having some luck fall their way with that first hit from Bassett. So now the Knights fall 2-0 to the Eagles of Bridgewater College. And we'll see if the Knights are able to storm back. I want to once again thank athletic partners of Southern Virginia Athletics, a lot of the local businesses we mentioned before. Want to once again shout out Cornerstone Bank, Mill Creek Orthodontics, River Crossing Apartments, Straws, Drinks and Eats, Grace Automotive, where SVU students and staff can receive 10% off their vehicle maintenance needs for those who are struggling with adulting, as all of us are, and vehicles are definitely an expensive thing to take care of. That is definitely helpful. And then Papa John's Pizza, which is locally owned and operated, Vinyl Cuts, The Beef Sweet Souvenirs, and Katana Sushi and Hibachi Express. And once again, if you would like to partner with Knights Athletics to promote your business to Knight Nation, please contact Brett Schroeder at 801-633-1894. That's 801-633-1894. Once again, thank you so much to those businesses for your support of Southern Virginia Athletics. So, looking at the stats right now, again, we talked about diversifying where you're attacking from. I think Southern Virginia did a better job in that second set overall, bringing a lot of your leaders up to sort of a very even amount, with Cindy Bassett with 8 after those first 2 sets, Clyde with 6, Madeline with 6, and Peterson with 2. And Bridgewater College, you have 7 for Reagan Stute, Faith Depew with 5, Gabby Atwell with 4, and Rachel Myers with 4. And I think in this third set, you know, we've seen that Madeline, although she has 6 kills, she's had a hard time getting things going consistently today. A lot of her hits have been sort of in the back row. She hasn't really been able to get a solid approach. She's had to sort of stand at that 10-foot line and hit from there, which is hard to get a really solid hit for anybody. And I think similar case for a lot of the other outside hitters. Cindy Bassett, I feel like, has gotten the most consistent quality looks on the outside. And, of course, been able to capitalize. But I think the one thing that can really get you into this game and get you to a point where you can storm back is, again, just accurate passing on the outside. And if you can accomplish that, you could easily take this third set and make things interesting.
Yeah, I think, you hit it spot on, Dawson. I think, in the last set, maybe set and a half, a lot of their sets have been, a bit too far back. We mentioned a couple of times where even Sydney had to kind of pull up and release from further out from the net than she wanted. So again, just staying composed, relaxing, having some fun, and with that, I think the ball will go in the right place.
And I think much like Coach Baker was saying to me before the game, I'm pretty sure exactly what she said in that huddle between sets was, hey, just have fun. You can tell there have been points in this game where the Knights are really having fun. They make a couple solid plays, a couple of blocks, great outside hit, and you see their smiles, and then a couple plays later, they're back to sort of putting pressure on themselves. Consistently having that feeling of we're having fun, we're making plays, we know what we're doing. We're letting our training from our coaches really take control, and just letting your volleyball nature take over, I think, is the best way to explain it. It's like if you're a basketball player or any other sport, you kind of let your brain and your body take over because it knows what to do. When you do that, that's when you play your best. And so we'll see if the Knights are able to bounce back. We'll have number 25, Brooklyn Madeline, back to serve for Southern Virginia. And I think I want to see more of that excitement that you have when, say, you used to have Jelaine Peterson come back on the floor, Brenna Clyde come back on the floor. They bring a certain energy saying, hey, let's go, we got this. You got to have that more consistently, I think. Ensley, the one-handed save. Great job that time from Robinson. Peterson for the pin. Having to step back a little bit once again, not really able to get on top of it. I think a lot of it also comes back down to another thing Coach Baker told me yesterday was learning how to play with one another. Because in the game of volleyball, I mean any sport really, it's a unit. You have to operate as a unit. And if you have multiple parts that really aren't able to do what they need to do together, it just isn't going to work out as much as you want. And that goes a lot, specifically into passing for Southern Virginia right now. A lot of the passes aren't really coming together like they want.
Yeah, and that'll take some time too. As you mentioned, the young team, Coach Debbie Baker said, obviously there will be some growing pains. And to some extent, we actually saw that a little bit in the team last year. As at the end of the year, I think they won the last 20 of their, or won 20 of their last 22 games.
Right.
And so when they got in a groove and were comfortable with each other, playing with each other, they almost were unstoppable.
Yeah, a lot of that patience applies to when you're working to see when things click. Right, and for some teams, things click earlier on, some teams it clicks a little later on. And I think Coach Baker's still waiting for that moment to happen with this team where things just sort of mesh together.
And when you think about it, with how many freshmen and younger players are on the roster this year, that's a bit of a scary thought that when this group meshes, most will stick around for, at least, 3-4 years. That's going to be a really lethal team, and hopefully they can put it together sooner rather than later this year.
Another hit sails out. That's kind of been consistent for the past couple of plays. The Knights not really able to get it within the lines. As now the Eagles have a 4-point lead in this third and potentially final set. Serve just short from Bridgewater. Both points for Southern Virginia right now, coming off of poor serves from the Eagles.
And with that, the doors being left open.
Yeah.
A couple of unforced errors, service errors, obviously, by Bridgewater. And so the Knights, tough start to the third set, but they have an opportunity to get back in it.
And that's the thing, is taking advantage of opportunities given you, and Stoop getting it past number 21, Wankier. And that's one of those hits that it's hard to stop that.
Yeah, lots of power in that one.
Indeed, she's able to get a really solid approach, was right at the net. Doesn't get much cleaner than that for Stoop.
Yeah, and for Wink, you're not going to get a perfect block every time, just like that one. And so you just got to stay with it, and some of these are going to stick, some of them won't.
Here's Clyde. She leads both teams with a hitting percentage of .625 going into this set. Clyde has to send it back over. Diving for it is Ensley. Trying to keep it up. That's a tough one.
And that's another reason why, a player like Reagan Stoop is so dangerous, is she can come at you with lots of power, then softly send it over the blockers and create lots of havoc. And so obviously, with that, they're a little bit out of sorts, trying to recover.
It's that great combination of power and finesse. Madeline not able to handle that first pass. Another point for the Eagles, a timeout for Southern Virginia. Coach Baker wanted to calm down her players a little bit in this third set. You can tell they're a little bit rattled by the way that second set ended. They had called that timeout down, I want to say 23-20, and then back-to-back points where it just didn't really work out for Southern Virginia. So I think they're kind of letting that sit in their minds a little bit.
Yeah, but again, this is a really talented group.
Yeah.
Lots of really good players who, felt the experience of last year's conference championship as well as the year before. And so, I have confidence that they're going to be able to rebound a little bit here in this third set, but also, down the road, back into conference play, they'll have lots of success this year.
Absolutely, and again, right now it stands 8 points to 2 in this third, potentially final set for Southern Virginia. And like you said, the Knights will be back to conference play on Saturday. They will have a day of rest against North Carolina Wesleyan, and then they have Brevard College. Both of those are away games. The Knights, after today, will not have a home game until October 5th, and that'll be against Salem College. That one kind of floating around a little bit, and Brennan Clyde had to adjust. Indeed. This is interesting seeing Brennan Clyde more in the back row right now. Usually around this point, we'd see Nikki Stevenson come in and fill her spot in the back row. Nice to have her at outside hitter right now. Great diving effort there. Again, the Knights having a hard time closing that window. Taking the floor for the first time tonight is number 8, Ruby Blameyers. Blameyers, a freshman from Colorado Springs, Colorado. She got a little bit of time last night against Greensboro College.
Yeah, she's got a couple kills on the year and started one match.
Here's Bassett. And Hoofman got
a bit of miscommunication there again. I think that was the second straight point where Hoofman got a hand to it, where maybe Jessica Inslee might have had a better shot to get it.
Yeah, because in those situations where, as the back row, you already made the decision of where you're going to go, and if it changes trajectory, you can't really stop yourself with all momentum. And so, like you said, back-to-back points where that is the case. The Knights now find themselves down by 9 in this third set. This game is mimicking a lot of what we saw last night against Greensboro College, where the first set against Greensboro College was more competitive. It ended up being a final score of 25-22. And the second set was 17 points for Southern Virginia, then the third was 14. And so slowly the point amount got less and less for Southern Virginia. You saw the wind get out of their sails a little bit. You're kind of seeing a similar thing in this third set right now, where Bridgewater College, they feel momentum from the first 2 set victories. They're riding with it. They're making a lot of solid plays. They made their adjustments. Whereas I feel like Southern Virginia, I don't want to say they're tired, because we know dang well the amount of work these players put in for their conditioning and all that, but there's, I guess a better word, maybe fatigue a little bit. Maybe fatigue due to frustration, and because they did come out swinging. They had a solid first set for first 10 points or so. Really, it was neck and neck, and things just kind of started to slowly fade.
They've been in it the first and second set, with the exception of this one. So they've given them a chance, given themselves a chance to win against a really solid team, but they're going to have to regroup here out of the timeout.
That one off the shoulder of Blameyers. Just a little more hesitation there, and letting it go out. So now number 7 is Sophia Stites, who's serving. Coming back onto the floor is Brooklyn Madlin. Movement to Bassett. Digging it out of the net that time was number 5, Ashley Rutherford. Clyde. That one sails out on Clyde.
That was the set they wanted.
Yeah.
Good opportunity, but just a little bit of a misfire.
There's a little less power in that swing than I think Clyde wanted to have. I think it kind of went off the side of her hand just a tad. It's not a Knights down by 11 in this set. Having a hard time getting things going offensively. Bassett said enough is enough. Love seeing on a situation where things start to go a little downhill and you see a leader like Sydney Bassett is just rising and say, okay, I got this. Let's get back to business.
And those are the big spikes that you can gain some momentum off of, as both of those are right in the wheelhouse in those last 2 points.
There's Clyde. Despite the diving effort from Stites, Clyde is able to get that to fall. Now bringing it back within single digits. Here's Bassett to serve once again. Good tip from Rankier. Point award to Southern Virginia. They're going to say that was a double. So again, we'll have to see how long Southern Virginia can ride this wave of momentum. And in this situation, you find yourself down by 8. You need to ride it for a good long while.
Yeah, and in some cases, you know, that large deficit might help them play a little bit more loose. You know, 4 straight points now. What do you have to do? Go for broke and try to get yourself back in it.
A rare misstep for Stoop on the back row as that serve really dipped down just past the 10-foot line. The first time we've seen that really work out for Southern Virginia today, as Bridgewater College's back row has been stellar. Say over the net for Bridgewater College, so some mistakes, consecutive mistakes for Bridgewater College coming to haunt them. We're seeing the crowd come alive. We're seeing Southern Virginia's bench gain back some energy. And Bassett has consistently targeted Stoop. Madlin and Hoofman trying to keep it alive. So a point now to the Eagles as they stop the bleeding.
They didn't get that point, but it was a good effort as they almost kept it alive off of, you know, obviously the most dangerous attacker, Reagan Stoop.
And a lot of that rally of points came because of Sydney Bassett. Again, leadership really taking control and pass right back to Bridgewater College's side. That's Williams capitalizing. So now you've given up a couple of points. You need to make sure that they don't have an equal run as you did to keep things more even. And Wank able to knock that down. That first pass from Madlin was one of the better first passes we've seen from Southern Virginia all day today. Hoofman barely had to move an inch to make that set.
Yeah, again, that was right in her wheelhouse, and she's able to deliver with lots of power. And you know, those are tough to handle. Whoever's hitting the ball, it's great to have it right where you don't have to extend too much.
Darren Anderson with that serve. Here's the pin. Here's Clyde.
Really good set again.
There's Shields diving for that one. Clyde again. Diving into each other was Shields and Walker. Able to get up quickly. Peterson able to get the foul. Some of the best passing timing for Southern Virginia tonight has been the past couple of points for them.
Yeah, really good job by Hoofman again. This is good consistency the last few points. Able to right the ship and get Southern Virginia back in it. It's a nice take by Anderson.
Bassett having to send it over. Both teams kind of scrambling right now. Having to dig it out of the net, and somehow they do. Here's Clyde again. And a kill for Clyde. Clyde now with 7 on the night. The Knights back within 5. I mean, who'd have thought being down either 13-2 at one point, by 11 points, now only down by 5. This fight we've seen from Southern Virginia, you love to see it. Because it just seemed like at the beginning they were just kind of lying down a little bit and accepting their fate. But something has sparked tonight. I do think it comes down to that one kill from Sydney Bassett. They need that one play to spark them. And again, we'll see how long it carries them. Here's Stoop. Great work from Bassett. Here's Madlin. Gets the tip. Brings it within 4. And you see the reaction right now. This is what Coach Baker's talking about. When you're having fun on the floor, things work better. The offense operates more smoothly. Your hits land better.
Yeah, and that excitement and noise, you know, gives you some extra juice to go after those balls that are up for grab. And just like this one right here.
Good communication from Southern Virginia. Great effort from Hoofman, but that one sneaks by her.
Yeah, that's just a really nice kill from Atwell.
We're going to see Wanker come back onto the floor, as well as Robinson from Bridgewater College.
Yeah, you know, at this point, being down 2 sets to 9, they're having to crawl back from a pretty large deficit. You just want to get your hand to every single attack from the Eagles to give yourself a chance.
Peterson, another kill. Peterson with her 4th kill of the night. She's been kind of quiet on the kill side of things since the first set. And we'll see Nikki Stevenson's come on the floor. The Knights once again down by 4. Driving effort from Stevenson, but it'll falls a point for the Eagles. And you know, one thing about riding momentum is that you see, we talk about the one play from Bassett on the far side, that kill that she had. That play spurs you on, but as you continue riding the wave, there's another play that spurs you on, then another that you look at and say, hey, we got this. And so if they keep this up, Hoofman running after that one, Stevenson having to send it over. Stevenson off her, goes out of bounds. Makes it once again a 6-point deficit. Number 14, Gabby Atwell back to serve.
And again, it's another time you have to just fight off the momentum for the Eagles. As you can see, they're starting to respond with more energy as the Knights did.
Bassett diving. Hoofman left a little bit too much air underneath that one. Trying to be tricky. Here's Madeline. Great work that time from Shields. Peterson pin. Beautiful setup. That'll fall for her. We've seen a couple times now where they've tried the pin and the set's a little bit behind, so they have to go underneath at that time. Right at the net. Beautiful setup. Peterson's able to really go downward on it. Here's Madeline for the serve. Great reflexes from Madeline that time. Going straight down. They probably will call that a block by Brooklyn Williams, although I think it was mostly just a net block.
Yeah, it seemed like it.
Now back to serve for the Eagles is number 5, Ashley Rutherford. That serve just short, brings it back within 5. So a combination of a couple of solid passing plays from Southern Virginia and some mistakes for the Eagles has made this third set, again, what started as sort of an onslaught on the Eagles side has turned into quite the contest. Beautiful block for Wankier and Hoofman. And it seemed like a little
been able to get up really high on that one.
Absolutely, it did seem like a little bit of a low set for Robinson, so perfect situation for Hoofman and Wankier. Now Ensley to serve. Great low serve.
And again, you know, was it 1916 now? You know, this just shows the upside of this Knights squad as they're down 13-2 and going on a, what now, 14-6 run against a really, really good team from the ODAC. It just shows you that, you know, if they find that consistency and take that pressure off themselves to win, that they can play with just about anybody.
I mean, you just know that regardless of what the outcome ends up being, that's going to be a part of the headline when you talk about this game is the effort in fighting back in this third set. And once again, a block for Hoofman. She's feeling it right now. Knights back within 2. Now with each point the Knights score, you hear the Knight faithful get a little louder and louder. And finally the Knights force Bridgewater College to call a timeout.
Did you think they'd be back within 2 at this point?
I'm not going to lie to you, Quinn. I was a little doubtful. But again, we're seeing the fighting spirit for Southern Virginia right now. And this actually goes back to something that I talked to Coach Baker about that I haven't mentioned, where she was talking to her players, and she made sure to stress that no one loves winning and wants to win more than her. But she says, you know what, at the end of the day, if we win or lose, it doesn't matter to me as long as we play to the best of our ability. If we're making plays, if we're being competitive, if we bring that energy, that's the main thing she wants to come away from a game. She doesn't ever want to lose a game knowing that there could have been more of an effort, or there could have been more things said, or more energy brought to the floor by players. You know, that's the main thing. And we've seen that in the second half of this set, and for a lot of the first 2 sets as well. So I think if you're going to take away anything from it, let's say, hypothetically, if Bridgewater pulls away, you're going to look at this game more fondly than you do the Greensboro game.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's that's another special thing about Coach Debbie Baker is she has that relationship with her players that they're going to listen. They respect everything that she says. She keeps things loose, but also has a serious attitude for winning, and that can only help this young of a team.
So Ensley back to serve. The Knights down by 2. trying to keep themselves alive in this third set. Hoofman to Bassett. Great block that time from Myers. We saw a couple of great blocks from Southern Virginia. That time Bridgewater College responding with one of their own.
But you just keep going back to that. That's what you wanted, just a really nice block, a combination block there. Had it in the hands of the attacker that, has the most kills on your team. So don't shy away from that.
And that serve from Madeline Walker falls short. And Brenna Clyde back on the floor. So now you're in a situation where you almost have exactly who you want on the floor at this time, minus Jelaine Peterson. You have Hoofman serving, you have Bassett and Clyde on the floor. Your two leaders in kills in the day, along with Madeline. Here's Clyde. Beautiful situation for Southern Virginia now. Clyde gets Howard straight down in front of Rutherford. The Knights now within one.
And super kill from Brenna Clyde, but an underrated play earlier by Sarah Hoofman to keep that free ball alive. I think one of the things that the Knights have struggled with is when they get those free balls, they it seems like they almost panic and maybe get out of position and give up that opportunity for a point. But a really good job to stay poised by a couple of freshmen.
You're absolutely correct. And now, as the Knights are within one, here's Hoofman to serve. Great dig from Ensley. Here's Madeline. That was close to possibly being out. Clyde saving that one, but it looks like it went outside the antenna. Yeah, that hits the back. It was really close.
Yeah, it was close.
I'd been very tempted to let it go, but Ensley, of course, playing it safe, not wanting just to fall on her.
I would have let it go too.
Let's see here. We got number 7, Sophia Stites back to serve. Eagles once again up by 2. Wankier, great pancake that time. And Rutherford with the effort to get up and swing at that as she was falling back down.
Really good effort by the Eagles.
Absolutely was. Now Bassett back to serve, and the last time she was back to serve was the start of the run for Southern Virginia. So we'll see if she can help them take the lead. Good tip, miscommunication. Brings it back to a 2-point lead.
Hey, but despite it being 22-20, this is the spot that you weren't able to be in sets 1 and 2.
True.
Remarkably, after being down by so much in the third set. So this is a good spot to be in despite letting up that point.
And we'll see Shields back to serve. The Knights down by 2, 22-20. Hoofman to Madeline.
Good recovery.
Absolutely, that's been the story of the game for the Eagles. And Hoofman just trying to keep it up. Now 23-20.
But again, they're giving themselves the opportunity to win this set. So just keep chipping away.
Here's Clyde. Great block that time from Stoop. And once again, we saw this similar scenario play out in the second set where the Knights pull within a couple of points in the final points, and then Bridgewater College just kind of shuts things down.
Yeah, they just seem to turn into a wall. The Knights threw, some pretty good shots at them. Good sets, good strikes to the ball, but we'll see what they can do here at set point.
Ensley diving in. Recovering from these blocks. Both teams putting up a lot of fight. And that'll be out. Point for Southern Virginia. The Knights live to fight another point. We'll see Taryn Anderson coming in to serve.
Yeah, that was a point that really could have gone either way, so a good job of the Knights to fight it off and stay in it.
I mean, it wasn't necessarily pretty on either side. Both teams were scrambling to keep the play alive and did a great job. Just a lot of great hustle. Here's Stoop. Anderson to Madeline. That falls for Southern Virginia, back within 2.
Underrated setup by Taryn Anderson is, typically she comes in for the serves, but she was able to set up Madlin, closer to the net than, you typically would expect with a serve all the way back there.
Listen to the serve again. They're trying to get Stoop to put the nail in the coffin. Bassett trying to dive for it, but it'll fall as the final point. And the sweep for Bridgewater College over the Knights of Southern Virginia. And I'll reemphasize the point that I made a couple of points back, where you look back at 2 back-to-back games, home games, where you lost 3 sets to nothing. There's one game you're going to look back at in film and think, okay, I'm happy about this performance than the other. And that, of course, is this game. This game you saw a lot more energy, a lot more efficient passing. You saw just a lot more, I guess the best word I can think of is energy in general, and you just love to see that improvement, at least in that category. I think Coach Dave Baker's going to look at this and be like, yes, unfortunately it was lost once again, but I loved what I saw out there today.
Yeah, and you hit it right on the money, Dawson. That third set early on, it looked like they might just lay down and let it happen, but they fought back and really outplayed, one of the better teams around for most of that third set. And so, I think that bodes well going back into conference play. They have a day to rest, regroup, and with lots of games on the calendar still, you can very well still, gain that home court advantage for the USA South tournament later on.
You absolutely can. Again, a lot to learn from this one, and the Knights will go on a little bit of a road trip over the next week. Their next contest will be a USA South match at North Carolina Wesleyan. And a little thing to note is that in the next couple of games, we could see Coach Dave Baker achieve her 100th victory as head coach for Southern Virginia over just 6 seasons, which I got to emphasize is absolutely incredible coming in here.
Absolutely.
Again, back-to-back conference champions and able to get triple digits in victories in that short span of time. Again, that's hypothetically if things go well in this road trip that they go on. But the Knights now fall to 6-10 on the year. Of course, this game, like you said, Quinn, doesn't affect their conference record, and Bridgewater College advances to 11-5. And I believe it's the road trip for Southern Virginia is a 3-game road trip.
3-game road trip, yep. They'll next face Salem College here in the barn on October 5th, a Thursday. But selfishly, obviously, we hope that, she could achieve 100 wins at home in the barn. But, hopefully for the team, and more than likely, that'll happen on the road. So keep a lookout for that.
Absolutely. And once again, the Knights going with this one with a 3-0 defeat at the hands of Bridgewater College. Once again, I'm Dawson Weeder, joined by Quinn Meyer. Thank you so much for joining us for today's presentation of Southern Virginia Athletics on Night Broadcasting. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and comment down below some things you'd like to see, some of the highlights for the game for you, some things you'd like seeing from this team today, also some ways that we, as a broadcast team, can improve. We appreciate your support, and as always, good night and go Knights.